We can thrive even when things aren't going great or when we're in the midst of making the thing that we're trying to make, which is great news.
Yeah.
But life will have a way of throwing us off of our center all the time.
Oh, yes.
From little things to big things to geopolitical things to, the smallest little nuances with your family or whatever.
Right.
And so daily stress and stressors, as well as big moments of adversity in the valleys of life will throw us off. And so resilience is about coming back to ourselves, coming back to what I call our sturdy center.
Yeah.
That's resilience.
Welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast, the podcast that will equip both the seasoned sales professional and the more reluctant seller with mindset shifts and strategies needed to succeed in a competitive marketplace.
So, welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. And I have the privilege of talking to amazing entrepreneurs, business owners, sales professionals, and today is nothing different. Today I have Alison Smith, who I met at a networking meeting, and we had an instant connection. And there's so few times where I meet someone, I'm like, please come on my podcast. And she is definitely one. So Alison, I want to say welcome. And I'd love if you would tell us a little bit about yourself, but you have to include something we're not going to read on your website or on your bio.
Okay. Well, hello. I'm Alison Smith, and I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and agree. Like, as soon as we met, I was like, we're going to do some good things together. So I can't wait to see what the future holds. So I'm an executive and leadership coach. I own the Thrive Designer, and we do resilience work, cultivating resilience for both individuals and organizations.
Okay.
So I'll do training and workshops and team development for organizations, and I do the same for executives and leaders.
Wonderful. Well, I do want to hear about that one thing that we're not going to read about your website, but I do want you to share with those who hear that word and don't quite understand it. What does resilience really mean as it pertains to the work that you do?
Sure. Okay. So the one thing about me that one of the things you will not read about in my bio is actually a new thing. We just got a puppy.
Aww.
And it is just making me so happy right now. It is filling our whole house with so much joy.
Yes.
We are definitely a dog household, and we lost our dog last year.
Aww.
And so it's been really nice to have a new little love and snuggle.
What's the puppy's name?
Brody.
Oh.
We call him Brody Blue.
Oh my goodness.
He has two blue eyes.
Oh,
and
you have to send me a picture. I have to see. For sure.
So that's completely personal. But the way I define resilience is actually kind of based on how I define the word thrive.
Okay.
So the word thrive, most of us think of as achieving and success and sort of the outcomes of all of our endeavors, right? We think of it as, I got the sale, I built the company, I created what I wanted to create, I achieved a goal,
Okay.
right? That's how we all think of thriving.
Yes.
But the original meaning of the word, the intention of the word, and the etymology of the word comes from an Old Norse word that means to grasp to oneself.
Ooh.
Isn't that good?
That's really good. I had no idea.
So I think where we get it wrong is that it's easy to grasp to ourselves. It's easy to hold on to ourselves in the high points, the peaks of life. When we're succeeding, when we've achieved what we wanted to achieve. Yeah, we want to be right here in the center of ourselves at that moment.
Right.
But where it's harder to do that is in the valleys of life, in the moments of adversity, in the moments of challenge and struggle and lack of confidence and all of those things.
Yeah.
And so how do we grasp to ourselves in those moments? And the good news about that is that then we can thrive even in those moments, right?
Yes.
We can thrive even when things aren't going great or when we're in the midst of making the thing that we're trying to make, which is great news.
Yeah.
But life will have a way of throwing us off of our center all the time.
Oh, yes.
From little things to big things to geopolitical things to, the smallest little nuances with your family or whatever.
Right.
And so daily stress and stressors, as well as big moments of adversity in the valleys of life will throw us off. And so resilience is about coming back to ourselves, coming back to what I call our sturdy center.
Yeah.
That's resilience. So most of us think of resilience as moving forward and pushing through the tough times.
Yeah.
But it's really, in my definition, about coming back to ourselves first.
Yeah.
So then we can focus on taking those steps forward, whatever that may be.
So good. So good. First of all, many people don't know that I'm a lover of words.
Yeah.
I love the etymology. I love the origins. I love studying and figuring out what things meant at the inception of those words. So thank you for breaking that down so very clearly. Tell me this then, because from what you just said, we all need this, right? How do you help people who very obviously need this type of work, this type of training? How do you help them to see that you're able to help them to accomplish what their goals are through the work that you do?
Sure. I mean, first of all, I think even just reframing that makes it feel more attainable.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I just have to come back to myself.
Right.
But for many of us, that's actually quite a foreign concept.
For sure.
I don't even know what my sturdy center feels like. What do you mean sturdiness? I would just sort of give you the option to think about when is a time when you have felt like you had to go through something really hard, but you felt strong in your convictions, you knew it was the right thing, and that gave you the strength to do a hard thing or find the courage to move forward. That's what I would call sturdy. Wow. So some people who it's been a long time since they have felt that feeling, need to cultivate that. And others just need to be reminded and think through, what are ways I return to that? Yeah. So I would say that's the two parts, cultivating it first and then finding ways to return to it over and over again. And so I actually, I will see this in my clients. I have coached for over 10 years now, hundreds of women, hundreds of leaders who have been thrown off and they want to thrive. And I've seen them achieve incredible goals, new jobs, promotions, running the company, selling their businesses, et cetera, through these wonderful milestones. Yeah. And when I think about what we have done to actually thrive, like how I have helped these clients actually thrive, it's not based on what they've achieved.
Right. Yeah.
It's not the things they achieved that made them thrive.
Yeah.
It's the ways they cultivated their relationship with themselves and their own sense of sturdiness and confidence.
I love that.
So I started thinking, like, what are they all doing? What are the core principles of that? Yeah. And I came up with 6 principles and I put them into the acronym THRIVE so they'd be easy to remember. And it's trusting, so cultivating a strong sense of self-trust, which is where that sturdiness and confidence comes from. The H is human-centered, so they treat themselves like a human being, not a human doing.
Right.
The R is responsive, and that's in contrast to reactive.
Right.
So they cultivate that pause between the thing that happens and their reaction to it, right? They cultivate that pause. They make that space big enough for them to come back to themselves before they choose a response. Okay. I is incremental. So that principle is really focused on what's the next right step. Right. So instead of getting overwhelmed with how far I want to go or how many steps I need to take, just focusing on the next right step. Just what's the next right action? Right. The V is values driven. So part of cultivating your sturdiness and thriving resilience is identifying your values. And I don't just mean your moral values or religious values, that kind of thing. I actually mean like at your core, you have things that feel of core importance to who you are. Right. And when you are driven from that place, lights out,
Absolutely.
right? You're unshakable, unstoppable.
Right.
And you are confident even when it's hard.
No doubt.
And when it takes courage.
Right.
So that's the V is values driven. And then E is empowered. Yeah. So they are empowered by focusing on what they can control and letting go of what they can't control.
I love it. Wow.
So those are the things that we work on over and over and over again. And I will work with an individual on those things. But then when I'm working with an organization, it comes down to the same things.
Yes.
How are we cultivating trust as an organization, as a team? How are we treating each other like human beings, not human doings? Are we just praising the achievements or are we praising how people are showing up? Right. And the culture we're trying to build here? Right. Are we taking a minute to be responsive? Are we allowing people to do that, et cetera? Are we taking the next right step, focused on our values, and focused on what we can control.
Empowering themselves.
Every person in your company is part of the sales team, but most of them don't know it and they don't have the tools or the confidence. That's where my Reluctant Sales Team program has helped hundreds of people to reach their goals. The next program starts soon. Visit tishtimes.com/make-more-sales to get the details and to enroll your team.
So for those who are in the space that you're in of leadership training and coaching and working with organizations, what does a sales process look like for an organization like yours? Because there are so many people that I encounter who love what they do. They love the end result that they get, but they really struggle with being able to communicate that to the people who need them the most. What does the sales process look like for a company like yours?
Yeah, actually, I'm learning that myself. I feel like it's constantly changing and evolving as I learn what works.
Yeah.
Because at first it felt a little bit like luck.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I just got lucky.
Yeah.
But then I started reflecting on it and thinking, well, what is it that actually is driving the sale, is driving something, someone to actually say yes to bringing me in. And so far I've learned a couple of things, and I would love your perspective on it too.
Yeah.
So far I've learned, first of all, it's relationship.
Yes, first and foremost, absolutely.
And that comes down to me building trust with the person.
Yes.
And usually that means we have like some small interaction and experience with each other so that they know who I am and they trust me and we've already started to build that relationship.
Yes.
And that we then grow. And then usually I'll go in and talk with them and identify what their needs are, right? Yeah. So identifying really what the pain point is, what the challenges that they're facing.
Yeah.
And I used to go in and think, I need to share with them my offerings and do all this stuff. And I had a mentor who said, you're a coach. Why don't you just go in and coach them?
Yeah.
Which was like, such a light bulb moment. It seemed so odd, but I'm trying to sell them. No, you're trying to help understand what's going on for them.
Right.
Asking them those questions and helping them uncover what they need. And then if it's you, great. That's a great match. And if it's not you, then you've offered them some value and built a relationship with them, because now they know they actually need a consultant, or they need HR support, et cetera, something different than what I can offer. But again, they now trust me even more deeply.
Absolutely. I learned that lesson. Interestingly, I was in the staffing world for many years before I moved into doing sales coaching. And the one thing that you'll learn really quickly in the staffing world is if you don't know what the client needs, you will always sell the wrong, solution. Yes. And so I remember being so excited because like you, I was like, I got lucky. Somebody said yes. And they wanted a person to answer phones. Easy, right? This person can pick up the phone, they can answer it, they can get it to the right person, no big deal. Well, in my haste and in my excitement, I didn't ask enough questions, and I didn't ask enough of the right questions. And this is a lesson that will always stay with me, and I use it pretty much daily now, is understanding the importance of asking those questions, getting to what they need, and then offering what it is that they actually need, even if it's not you. Because I should have offered them something else, but I offered them what I had, only 2 hours later to get a phone call to tell me that I had given them the wrong solution, basically. I sent someone over who could, yes, answer phones, but they weren't bilingual, and they needed to be bilingual for their office. So they were basically, sitting at the desk smiling because they couldn't answer the phones because half of the population in that city, was speaking a different language. So it's so important to understand, if you can get to the gist of what they actually need, and then supply that solution, whatever it might be, even if it's not you, that's when you're really the expert, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll even put a nuance on that, because I learned that lesson, did that, and then I realized that what they thought the team needed was not what the team thought the team needed.
Happens all the time.
So the next thing I added was I need to talk with more than one person.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I cannot just talk with the person, the decision maker, the person in charge. I also have to talk to a swath of the team. So usually that's part of my process too. It's just, bring me in, let me do some interviews. Let me meet with some folks and understand what's really going on.
Yes.
Because to me, I'm always interested in getting beneath the surface.
Yes.
And no one's interested in those surface level solutions.
No.
they could have probably figured those out for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's really not the work that interests me either. I want to work with organizations and individuals on more transformative change.
Absolutely.
And to do that, you need to really understand the deeper layers. And that's really spending time and gaining the trust for someone to show you those deeper layers as an individual, and also for the team to trust you and open up about what's really going on.
Yeah. And, and I think I shared this with you when we talked before, that I used to do a lot of, corporate training as well. And the game changer for me from a sales perspective and understanding some of the things we're talking about was doing what I called, and I don't know if people might call it something different now, a climate assessment. And that enabled me, and this is a lesson for those of you all who are selling to organizations, because like you said, you talk to one person, you get one story. And you don't always know all of the varying things that are really necessary to help them. So I would do a climate assessment, which would allow me to have every person in the organization, I would sign a non-disclosure agreement, meaning I'm not going to go and say to your boss, did you know that Alison said, So
that's key.
It gave me a little bit of trust with them so they can be extremely honest. But we took an aggregate of the information that we received to be able to paint a picture of what's really going on in the organization so that we could actually give them a solution that was really needed compared to what they thought was needed. Right. Game changer. And not only was it a game changer, meaning we were able to give them a better solution, it also added a lot of value to the leaders of that company because they thought they knew what was happening right beneath their noses. And most times they don't, right? Right. And so, what are some of the things that you're able to do to uncover what's necessary for, the organization or the individual that you might be working with, even if they have the assumption that they need answer A, but they actually need answer D?
Well, and that, first of all, the reference that came to mind as you were talking about that was it's more like dating than it is anything else. So true. Right? So that you're trying to find a good match. And so often, people will try to be the person that they think people want instead of just authentically being themselves. Yeah. And then if you authentically are yourself and someone else is authentically being themselves, then you're going to have a connection or you're not. Exactly. And it's going to be really clear from the beginning. And you can go from there. So true. And I was thinking about your climate assessment as kind of being the dating profile, right? Of but let the key to that being effective is that it's authentic.
Completely, yeah.
And that the structures that you built within the way you do that create that authenticity because of confidentiality and trust building so that they can be more real about what's actually really going on in the climate and what they're experiencing. So that's so powerful. Yeah. I typically do that in interview. So we'll call it an interview or, get to know you, just having a chat. Really what I'm doing is coaching and understanding, but using questioning strategies that help unearth what's going on. And that may result in some awareness building for the person, but really that the goal of that session is to help me understand what's going on and what their pain points are. So whether that's for an individual, we'll talk through what do you want, what is it that you're trying to create or achieve, and what makes that important. Even just that question, what's meaningful about that? What makes that important for you? Helps start going the layer beneath the surface. Well, I want to 10x my business. What makes that important to you? And then you can get to some of those things that might get closer to the values, right? Of well, I want to provide security for my family, or I want to be able to sell this and retire when I'm 42. Great. What's important about that for you? Well, I want to have freedom, right? So then you start getting into the real drivers. And then if it's something that I feel like I can support them with, that's an individual. Usually, that is a fit, right? Because as long as I can help them understand more about themselves, they feel ready to work with me. But for working with an organization, it might be, I'm going to be great to work and coach with the executives, and do I need to bring in other team members to sort of augment and supplement what I can offer? They bring different skill sets, and then we can do things as a whole team. A lot of times we'll start with a couple of sort of canned trainings. And as I then do those trainings, get to know the teams, these are like big, broad brush kind of offerings that are going to resonate differently depending on what their challenges are. They're going to resonate and be helpful no matter what. Then as I'm coaching the leadership team, then I hear how that's resonating and uncover other additional needs that then will continue to shape the program from there based on that.
Right. I just want to kind of back up and unpack because there was so much gold in what we just said, what you just talked about right now. Because something that I teach clients is the power of what we call, many people call discovery questions. It might be called get acquainted, whatever you might want to label it. But at the end of the day, if we don't get down to what's really the pain point, what they're really struggling with, or what they ultimately desire, we're always going to sell the wrong opportunity, the wrong package, the wrong solution, whatever that might be. And so though I know your program mostly focuses on leaders and, people within organizations, there is some gold there in helping people to learn how to sell more effectively. Because if they would take that same approach and having those conversations, and for those of you all who are listening, who are sales professionals and find yourself either not getting to the yes at all, not getting to it often, or finding that once you've already gotten to the yes, now you're having to kind of backtrack and almost create a separate program because this isn't quite what they needed. It's because you're not digging deeper into those types of, getting those real answers from that person. And I love to say if we slow down our process, we'll speed up our success because people are often very anxious to get to that yes, but they've not done all of the necessary work to uncover what's really taking place. So I don't know if you know, but you have an amazing, masterclass in teaching people how to sell through just what you just said right now.
Well, that's amazing. I think that coaching and taking a coach approach to whatever you are trying to do usually makes it better because you're helping, you're understanding what their needs are, or you're understanding the other person you're trying to work with better.
Right.
And that's ultimately going to propel you forward. I will just say though, for sales professionals and any of us who are trying to sell, it takes a lot of personal resilience.
It does. It definitely does.
You take those no's, you don't understand, you may personalize that they're saying no because it's something I did or it's something they didn't like me or whatever. It's very easy to take those things personally. And
Absolutely.
So these Thrive Design principles and those elements of resilience, I always say I'm my own best and worst client. I'm constantly coaching myself because this is something we all have to nurture in ourselves, nurturing our own resilience, coming back to ourselves, especially when we've heard a no, especially when it's a no, not right now, and making it about them. Okay, it's not the right fit for them. It's not about me.
Right. Alison, we definitely have to do this again because we're out of time already. And I hate that, but it's just the truth. Tell people, if you would, what's the best way for them to reach out to you? If they've heard something that made them say, oh my God, I need to talk to Alison, what's the best way for them to reach you?
You can find me on my website. That's probably the best, easiest way. You can use my contact form to get in touch with me.
Okay.
My website is thethrivedesigner.com.
Wonderful. We'll make sure that that's in our show notes. And I want to say thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We'll do it again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. I would be so appreciative if you would show me and my amazing guests some love by leaving a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Also, go over to tishtimes.com/resource page and make sure you pick up your sales and networking handbook, especially for introverts. Also, I'd love to continue this conversation, so make sure you connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'll see you back here next week.